Salem has survived kidnappings, explosions, secret tunnels, and enemies hiding in plain sight. But this time, the danger doesn't end when the captives are freed. It follows them straight into the hospital. Because Days of Our Lives spoilers confirm that 3 devastating medical emergencies are about to strike Salem back to back, turning the hospital into the next emotional battleground. Tonight, we're breaking down who lands in a hospital bed, why it matters, and how these medical emergencies could permanently reshape Salem's power dynamics. Because this storyline isn't just about injuries, it's about guilt, paranoia, psychological collapse, and blame. And once these patients wake up, nothing will be the same. Let's begin with Theo Carver, because his collapse may ultimately be the most emotionally devastating consequence of the entire crypt nightmare. Theo doesn't fall because someone attacks him. He doesn't fall because a villain strikes first. He collapses because the human body can only withstand so much fear, confinement, and sustained terror before it breaks. Spoilers reveal that while still trapped in captivity, Theo suddenly collapses and hits his head, sending shock waves of panic through the crypt. In an instant, the focus shifts from survival plans and accusations to one terrifying realization. Theo might not wake up. And this is not a minor incident. A head injury in Salem is never just physical. It's symbolic. Over the years, head trauma in Days of Our Lives has led to memory loss, altered personalities, emotional regression, life-altering consequences that surface months or even years later. So when Theo is rushed to the hospital, it's not just a medical emergency. It's a reminder that this kidnapping has already left permanent scars. For Abe Carver, the fear is unbearable. He's watched his son lose his sight, fight through years of trauma, survive situations that should have destroyed him. And just when Theo finally seemed grounded, stronger, more independent, more hopeful, another nightmare begins. Spoilers reassure viewers that Theo survives. He will be physically okay. But Days of Our Lives has never treated survival as the end of the story. Because surviving doesn't mean escaping unchanged. This collapse forces Theo to confront something he's never fully processed before: his own mortality. For the first time, Theo truly understands that life can end suddenly, not because of destiny or villains, but because the body simply gives out. That realization is profound and dangerous. It may lead Theo to question how independent he truly is, whether Salem is safe enough for him, if the life he's built can continue the same way. And when a character like Theo realizes that life has no guarantees, it reshapes everything. How he loves, how he trusts, and how boldly, or cautiously, he chooses to live. If Theo's crisis is rooted in physical collapse, Kristen DiMera's emergency is far more dangerous, because it's psychological. Spoilers confirm Kristen will also be hospitalized after her ordeal in captivity. Her condition is serious. A significant wound, a dangerous fever, extreme emotional and psychological strain. But here's the detail viewers cannot afford to overlook. Kristen's mental state is unraveling. This is not the cold, strategic, meticulously calculating Kristen DiMera audiences know. This is a woman who has lost control. And for Kristen, control is everything. Captivity strips her of power. Isolation strips her of certainty. Fear strips her of rational judgment. Without control, paranoia creeps in. Fear morphs into suspicion. Suspicion hardens into rage. And rage always demands a target. Kristen's hospitalization is not about healing. It's the beginning of a psychological spiral. Spoilers suggest that while lying in a hospital bed, feverish, exhausted, traumatized, Kristen begins replaying the crypt events again and again. Who knew what? Who arrived when they shouldn't have? Who benefited from the chaos? She starts searching for betrayal, manipulation, someone to blame. And when fever distorts perception, reality bends. Memories blur, motives twist. Assumptions harden into certainty. Kristen is on the edge, and when she finally loses her grip, the people closest to her will be the ones in the most danger. Which leads directly to her brother. That brings us to the most volatile hospital patient of them all, Peter Blake. Peter's arrival in the DiMera crypt initially feels like a shocking but emotional reunion. Kristen sees her brother, Stefano DiMera's adopted son, a living piece of family history. For a brief moment, there's relief, comfort, even hope. But in Salem, family reunions never stay warm for long. As accusations swirl around E.J. DiMera, Kristen initially believes E.J. may have staged his own kidnapping. Another DiMera power play. But then something shifts. Details stop lining up. Timing feels wrong. Peter's behavior raises questions. Kristen begins to wonder. Was Peter really a victim? Or was he playing a part? Spoilers strongly hint that Kristen's suspicion will turn inward, away from EJ, and directly toward Peter. And once that suspicion takes hold, it becomes dangerous. Because for Kristen, belief is enough. Whether Peter is guilty or innocent becomes irrelevant. What matters is what Kristen thinks she knows. And Kristen has never been someone who waits for proof. Spoilers suggest her paranoia may escalate into violence, possibly a physical attack on Peter, leaving him injured and hospitalized. And this is where the story turns heartbreaking. Peter wakes up in a hospital bed, wounded not just physically, but emotionally. Kristen, overwhelmed with guilt and regret, begs him for forgiveness. But Peter doesn't forgive. Instead, he explodes. He screams at her to get out. That rejection is seismic. Because Peter doesn't just feel hurt. He feels betrayed by his own blood. Targeted. Sacrificed. Branded a villain by the one person who should have trusted him. And when Peter finally leaves that hospital bed, Salem may be facing something far more dangerous than a wounded man. It may be facing a new enemy, one fueled by resentment, humiliation, and unresolved rage. What makes the storyline so compelling is that the hospital stops being a place of recovery and becomes a psychological war zone. In Salem, hospitals have always been crossroads between life and death. But this time, the building itself feels like a mirror, reflecting the damage every character is carrying inside. Each patient represents a different fracture in Salem's soul. Theo Carver represents innocence shattered. His collapse is a reminder that even the kindest, most vulnerable people aren't spared from Salem's chaos. His hospital bed isn't just a place to heal. It's a symbol of how deeply this nightmare has already reached into the next generation. Kristen DiMera represents control lost. Her physical injuries may heal, but the loss of psychological dominance may not. The hospital confines her once again, stripping her of power, movement, and certainty. And for Kristen, confinement is the ultimate trigger. Peter Blake represents family turned enemy. His hospital bed becomes a courtroom without a judge, a place where guilt, suspicion, and betrayal are silently debated. Blood ties no longer offer protection. They invite danger. And while these three lie under medical supervision, the emotional shockwaves ripple outward, affecting everyone who steps into those hospital corridors. Chad DiMera barely acknowledges his own injuries. His focus is singular, reuniting with Thomas and Charlotte. For Chad, survival is meaningless if he can't reclaim the part of his life that still feels pure. The hospital doesn't represent fear for him. It represents urgency, a reminder that time with his children can be taken away without warning. Tony DiMera emerges physically weak, drained by captivity and stress. But his reunion with Anna DiMera offers something no IV or medication can provide: grounding, connection, a reminder that love still exists beyond the DiMera darkness. In contrast, E.J. DiMera appears less affected on the surface. He hasn't endured captivity as long. He hasn't suffered the same physical damage. But Kat Green insists he get checked anyway. Why? Because in Salem, the most dangerous injuries are the ones that don't bleed. Guilt, fear, unprocessed trauma. The hospital becomes a holding space, not just for bodies, but for secrets waiting to surface. Make no mistake, this hospital crisis is not filler. It's a structural reset for Days of Our Lives. Each hospitalization pushes a storyline onto a new trajectory. Theo's future may never look the same. This experience could make him more cautious or more determined to live boldly. Either way, the innocence he once carried has been permanently altered. Kristen's instability is no longer contained. Her time in the hospital doesn't calm her. It intensifies her paranoia. And once Kristen leaves that bed, she won't be seeking peace. She'll be seeking answers. Or revenge. Peter's rage may ignite the next war in Salem. Humiliated, injured, rejected by his own sister, Peter doesn't leave the hospital healed. He leaves transformed. And above all else, the DiMera family emerges fractured. Trust has eroded. Loyalties are unclear. Every conversation feels like an interrogation. The hospital, once a neutral ground, has become the stage for emotional reckoning. It's where alliances fracture, where blame spreads, where long-buried resentments rise to the surface. Salem hasn't just survived a crisis. It's been reshaped by it. These 3 hospitalizations are not the conclusion of this story. They are the ignition point. Because once the patients recover, once the IVs are removed, once the doors swing open, they will remember. They'll remember who stood by them. They'll remember who hesitated. They'll remember who they blamed and who they chose to forgive. And in Salem, memory is power. Power to manipulate, power to retaliate, power to rewrite the truth. So yes, the hospital crisis may end soon, but the emotional fallout? That's just beginning. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video and subscribe for daily Days of Our Lives breakdowns. Because in Salem, surviving is only the first battle.